Nowhere Prophet is a game that has been in the making for 5 years, and with the following release, we have yet another fascinating take on both roguelike and CCG design, with maybe even a pinch of FTL thrown into the mix. But the story takes place in the far distant future, where we are the leader of a caravan of nomads who are trying to reach a very important site. And it's up to us to keep our people alive, keep the caravan going, and probably most importantly, keep ourselves alive in the process. So at the start of the game, you'll choose from a different faction. This affects your starting cards as well as your caravan. Both are very important, as we're about to talk about next. On the map here, each time you play, the map's path is procedurally generated. Harder choices or harder destinations will usually reward you with more resources. But the big point is that you're going to be getting into CCG style battles to settle your differences. And this is where Nowhere Prophet's kind of twist on the genre becomes apparent. Our caravan, as you see, is actually our deck. Every person who's following us is a card, and every character comes with an energy cost, damage, and health. Now the rules of the CCG play are as follows. You can place units or you can place cards down as long as you have the energy, similar to Hearthstone or I think Magic. The card that is in the front position on a row is allowed to attack. Cards behind them are not allowed to attack. You can also place cards behind objects and such to give them some level of defense, but they will not be able to perform an attack as well. As you place cards down, similar to Hearthstone and other games, you have to wait a turn before you can use them. Now the cards on the bottom right hand side of the screen are called leader cards, and these are kind of like your spells and cards that you can use to either influence the field, your units, or the opponents. And those cards become unlocked as you find new gear in the game that you can break down, or as your character levels up. Now, the other major twist of Nowhere Prophet from a CCG standpoint is kind of how the roguelike elements come into play. When a character gets knocked off your side of the field because they've lost health, that card becomes wounded. And what that means is that going forward, that card will have one less health point when it gets played on the field. But here's the twist. If that card runs out of health a second time, that person is killed, and that card is then permanently removed from your deck. Now, you can heal both yourself as well as your cards at specific campsites. And there's also various events that can happen that can either give you new cards, new resources, or change your caravan's kind of like morality system. If you look in the upper right hand corner of the screen right now, you'll see 4 resources. You have kind of the hand, that's the altruistic standpoint. That basically affects kind of your choices and how people respond to you. You have your caravan, aka your deck, batteries, which are your currency. Then you have food, and then I think the last one was morale. And you will lose food and morale for every part of your journey that you take, but you can restore it by using consumable resources. And there is a lot to unpack with Nowhere Prophet. After each level or after each map, you then choose your next destination, similar to FTL. And doing certain accomplishments or going certain ways may unlock additional factions or more choices in the future. Not to mention the fact that you can buy new cards during play, new items. Cards have their own rarities and special abilities, and again, this feels like a full-fledged CCG, but in a single-player roguelike. And I was going to say that Slay the Spire was going to be probably my favorite take on the genre this year, and then Nowhere Prophet came out. Now I'm in a very tough bind there. As an added bonus, I like the aesthetic of the game. The game makes use of Middle Eastern music as well as like the style for it, and I like this kind of, I'm not sure what the exact artistic style. I want to say it's heavy line, but I think I'm wrong there. And if anyone can correct me in the comments below, I would greatly appreciate it. But the game has a great look to it, the music is also outstanding, and the gameplay certainly has depth to it. With that said, we're going to take a quick shout out break to our Patreon supporters and sponsors, and when we come back, I'm going to talk about a few of the nitpicks with this game and why, despite these bright and colorful graphics, this is a lot harder of a game than it looks. And now a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom Patreon supporters and sponsors. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, link down below. Before we got to our mid-video break there, I said that Nowhere Prophet feels very much like a fully realized CCG. And that also is kind of one of the nitpicks with the game. This is a tough game to play. And it took us about a good hour and a half, 2-hour session before I started to figure out kind of the rules as to how things go, especially when it comes to combat. The aforementioned rules about how the rows and the columns interact with each other. And there are a lot of things to keep track of when playing this game. When you have elite or boss characters like this have a special ability, cards that can proc or be activated off of other cards, and again, though, you essentially have two decks that you're maintaining at all times between your convoy and your leader deck. And this can be a lot harder for people when it comes to managing things. Again, not only are you having to keep track of what cards work well together, you also have to understand what cards to take into conflict when it comes to if they have wounds or not. It's a very effective dynamic in terms of this intersection between the CCG and the roguelike play. Do I take my best cards into a fight, but risk losing them permanently, and can I win without them, especially when you start running into the heavier enemies? Speaking of which, this is where the difficulty of Nowhere Prophet can definitely feel a little punishing depending upon your tolerance for RNG. Because you're dealing with not only your deck in terms of what cards you're able to pull each turn and what's in there, but also what the enemy can throw at you as well. And it started to feel like, as we were getting further into the game, that I was running into that situation that I had when I was trying to play Hearthstone or Gwent, where I would have this mismatched deck of various characters all put together, and the enemy has, their super expensive, I picked every card perfectly deck that just completely dominated me. And this is, again, like similar to a game like FTL, where a very bad loss, or just a barely squeaked out win, can lead to failure down the line. The same thing can happen in Nowhere Prophet. If you get into a battle with an enemy who just completely wrecks your entire deck, or does massive damage to your Prophet, you may not be able to recover that in time before the next major event, and you are in deep trouble. With the fight that you're seeing on screen right now with this lizard boss, his special little perk here was every time I attacked him directly, which is how you have to win a battle, he would automatically kill that unit, regardless of its health. So essentially, I would have to sacrifice, I think it was 5 or 6 units to get either a pain or a wound, or just outright kill them. And there was no way to get around that. Similar to any good CCG or deck building game, rules can get into very strange conflicts or synergies with each other that lead to new dynamics. And there is still so much to explore this game that we did not get to. But if you're hoping for something that is more on the casual side in terms of the deck building, similar to Slay the Spire, or having more gameplay options than just the CCG side of things, you may not like Nowhere Prophet. But with that said, this is a fascinating game, and we're trying to get the developer on for a chat because I really want to talk to them about kind of what went into designing this 5-year long development cycle. But with that said, if you are looking for another roguelike or CCG style game, definitely give this one a shot. I don't believe there's any multiplayer, although I may be wrong on that one. But there really aren't too many full-fledged single-player CCG games out there. I think the only closest example would be something like either Slay the Spire or that Gwent, I think it was called Thronebreaker. But I would like to thank the developer for giving me a press key to check this one out. And if you'd like me to look at your game in the future, please don't hesitate to get in touch. But check back for daily discussions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Once again, this has been Nowhere Profit, and until next time, have a great night. If you're looking for a book on design, my first title, 20 Essential Games to Study, is out now. It is available where most books are sold, and it comes in paper, hardcover, or digital copies. This is the perfect book for anyone interested in learning about game design, whether you are a student, enthusiast, or just a fan. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel linked down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.